The next session is on the accelerated learning and development of individuals, and really it is me doing a show and tell of everything that UK sports coaching team is undertaking at the moment from a coach development perspective. There's ever such a lot to get through. I just want to frame it where we are to start with. So if that's the hierarchy of sport involvement, we sit at the top at the elite end, and we invest in Olympic and Paralympic athletes to effectively bring home medals for that investment. But what we're going to do, first of all, David's going to help me out and find out who's in this room, and then we can contextualise some of the feedback that you give us on activities that you undertake, and then perhaps your reflections as you go along on the bits that we undertake as well. So David?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to take one and pass them along in your row. I'd like you to fill out the top 4 boxes, the name, the country from, the sport, and your role in that sport. I'm going to ask you to speak to somebody in a minute as well. So it doesn't have to be somebody you like or know, it can be. But it's got to be somebody probably sitting quite near you. If you need a pen, I've got one. Just hand these out. Oh my God. Right, that's enough time. Should have that finished. No. So you've done the top part. Outside, I saw some work. If some of you came earlier in the week about start, stop, and continue, but Graham leads our department on coach development in the UK, the elite end, and so this is probably part of your development, and you've probably chosen to come in, or you might have been sent. But what about your governing body or your national federation? What do they do well? What do they need to start doing? And what should they stop doing? So if you would fill out on those boxes the sort of coach development work that you're involved in. So I know, for example, that Eddie from men's artistic gymnastics is on the elite program for UK Sport, but I have his views on how it's developing him. But there are other things that men's artistic gymnastics do. I'd like Eddie to put down the things he thinks that are really good, should continue, the things that perhaps they should stop doing, and things that he's heard maybe today or during the last 10 days that they should start doing. If you do that for yourself, but the acid test is, I want you to do it quite quickly, that's the school teacher and me, and then you're going to explain it to somebody else. So my friend, you were from South Africa when you were at track and field, so you're going to do a snapshot of what track and field does for you in South Africa, and then I'm going to ask you to explain to somebody else. Okay, is that alright with everybody? Have I given the clarity of task? Nod, yeah? Yeah. So 2 minutes, that's all.
Good question.
What coach development are you getting? What needs to start? What to continue? And if they're doing something that's wrong, what should stop in your sport? Two things are going to happen. One, I'll give you just 2 minutes to chat to somebody you don't know too well. So Nick, there's no point in them, they know pretty well what's going on with gymnastics. Just talk to somebody else and share what you've put down. But then the other thing is, as Graham speaks, if he gives an idea of a programme that he leads and runs, and it would be useful for you, and it's not available at the moment, write down start for your programme, and then at the end I'd like to collect these so that we know who was in. So, just 2 minutes just to chat to somebody else about what your role is and how coach development's going for you. Okay?
Okay. Yeah. Is that England hockey?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just find it about chance to the first thing I was
More technical things, etc. They're not very often. They cover limited areas, good areas, but limited.
So we've got the idea, things to continue, things to start, things to stop. I'd like you to keep those thoughts going in your head as Graham presents. And if there's something you'd like to start or something to continue for your sport or your governing body or your federation, then note it down. And as I said at the end, I'll simply be by the door to collect those in.
Okay, thank you, David. I've got quite a lot to get through, so unfortunately it's going to be mostly information dissemination, so it's going to be closed communication, all those aspects of all coaching, but it's an opportunity to give you guys a fundamental understanding of where we've got to. We've got a roadmap of activity that we align to, and our mission, we spent a long time over the words in our mission, primarily focusing on that partnership with sports and specialists to recruit, develop and retain a world-class workforce. Primarily coaches, but you'll see that we also do some work with our performance directors as well. And if you think of this roadway starting at our funding at the elite program, on the world-class programs. So below here is the regional countries, Sport England, Sport Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland from a UK perspective. And then here, this is where UK sports funding starts. We have some a couple of programs at a foundation level, and one of those transgresses this divide here into the home countries. And we have an apprenticeship scheme in the middle, and our elite program right at the top. I'll go into some detail of those as I get to each slide. Supporting all of that roadway on the left-hand side is mentoring. That's one of the key fundamentals that we invest in now, and the main value that we get out of all of our programs seems to be around the mentoring side of it, and just unpicking mentoring and understanding what it is has helped us understand how people in our particular audience are going to develop. And then on the right hand side, on the other sidewalk, is our performance conference every year, and this is bringing like-minded people together. So this is the audience within coaches, head coaches, some practitioners and performance directors every year at the end of November. It's a little bit like Thanksgiving, but they appreciate being given the opportunity to spend time with each other, reiterating what Chris said, and also gives us a platform to get some professional development out there, and also some key strategic messaging from UK sports perspective. It disappears off into the future because you're always learning, lifelong learning. So that's the imagery that we want to portray. I'm going to go into a quick fundamentals of all of our programs sit behind this model of activity. And we make no bones about it that the most important one to start off with is self. If there's a lack of self-awareness or self-management or personal drive and ambition, you're on a non-starter to start with. So there's no point in putting information out in front of people if they're not willing to take it on board, or they are unaware of how they act. We spend a lot of time on the key fundamentals around self. And those four quadrants increase and decay depending on which program we're going to put on. But self is a fundamental key marker for us, as is leadership. We call it performance leadership, and support it in the areas that you see. A key one, although Frank's not in the room, is around decision making and the information that you use around that. And relationships, especially around coaching, is an obvious key one. If you can't develop relationships, sustain relationships, understand the level of relationship, good, bad or indifferent, that you're having with your athlete or your support staff, again, you're on a non-starter. And then SQ is the sports intelligence around what that is. So that's the technical element to it. And we don't sit in London in UK sports, perceived ivory tower, and dictate what the sport should know about the sport. We go to the sport and we ask them about their detailed knowledge. So that's part of the partnership element of it. Fundamental to all of this is obviously the coach. So we try and determine what the coach wants, and we also try and determine what the coach needs. Those could be two completely different elements. They might think that they want upskilling on a technical element, when actually there's a fundamental imbalance in the relationships that they build with their support staff. And by unearthing that knowledge gap and putting them on a journey, we are seeing benefits of that. A key element of all of our programs is the cohort. And we try and blend the cohort of all the different programs individually to that year and where they are on their coaching journey. So if there's an outlier which is going to slow down the development of the main body of activity, or the main body of the cohort, we'll probably not take that person on. Or if we feel that they're nearly there, but they just need a little bit more, and then once they get part of a new cohort, they'll be supercharged and advance really quickly, we'll put in some development for them. So we needed some a model, if we want to call it a model, anchor points for all of our programs, and that's what we tie our lines to the mast to. We do a lot of stuff. 4 years ago when I started, we were effectively doing two streams of activity. One was we just launched the apprenticeship program, which is known as ECAP, Elite Coaching Apprenticeship Program, and we were putting on the conference every year. The conference is now 14 years old and is a key structural element within our system. But we've listened to the system and we've adapted and we've grown and we've been the benefactor of sustained funding. We wouldn't be able to do this if we hadn't had the Olympics and then we hadn't had the success at our home Olympics where we got sustained funding. Our funding comes from lottery and exchequer, and my team in UK Sport run off the exchequer pot of that. So we need to prove to government that we're worth investing in, and fortunately they saw the benefit across the results of the build-up to London 2012. Beijing looked like maybe we peaked too early, but we bettered that in London, and we're attempting to better that again in Rio. And to do that you need sustained funding, so it's a key marker. So there's the conference, the elite program, the apprenticeship, and the athlete to coach program is the first of those foundation programs. And I'll quickly go through that in a second. Mentoring is key, absolutely fundamental across all those streams of activity. And something of a feather in our cap is our performance directors within their forum have asked us, the coaching team, to develop them. So they're recognising that they need to be as best as they can be, and they value the inputs that we've done so far with their coaches. Para Coach to Rio was launched last winter, and we've got a target of 121 Paralympic medals in Rio. So to give those coaches the best platform that they can, we've launched something around those guys. Project Connect is a emphasis on all the investment that's going in at the elite end. How do you connect that out to what's going on in the home countries? So we've put something in place to give us a communication route out to the home countries to get the coaches and the athletes to be the best that they can be out there, and fundamentally raise the foundation stones in our pathways. And to do that also we invest in an entity called Sports Coach UK, who provide a framework of coaching awards for each national governing body. So without us investing in that framework, in that robustness, we wouldn't be able to have a successful and sustainable future. So we do that as well. We need to know who's in our audience, so we conduct a coaching census, and that's around the coaches that are operating within our world-class programs. Who they are, gender, background, education, experience, where they're doing their coaching, how much CPD that they get access to, whether they value that CPD, whether that value is within internal CPD within the national governing body, or external CPD that maybe we put on. And once we drill down into that data, we can look at that information and make sure that our strategy for the future is correct. And if any of these elements need to be stop, start, change, that's what we'll do. So we're asking the audience as well. And then the final one, and it's in italics because we're researching it at the moment, we haven't got a program around it, is developing the developer. So if we've got coaches who are craving information and knowledge uplift, who in the NGBs is doing that, and how are they being the best that they can be? Who's helping them find, those people find new learns and new information. So we're doing a lot of stuff, and I'm going to run through some of those programs now. So starting with our big event every year, November. So it's based around the majority of our investment is in our summer sports. So it's held in November when everybody's back from their summer activities, and they've debriefed and they've set the agenda for the following year. Last year the footfall was 370, so it's a relatively big audience that we have. 46 sports. Now we don't fund 46 sports, but we invite that number of sports. So we invite some of the professional sports to see A, what they're up to, and B, for them to interact with our audience and swap war stories, interact with the sessions that are going on over the 3 days. 9 different partner organisations, so that can be Sports Coach UK, that can be the BOA, that can be the BPA, which is the Paralympic side of our activities. They all value being there. It can be WADA, UCAD, all there to value what's going on. 26 speakers across 3 days, and we've managed to get up the gender split, and that is live with us at the moment around women in high performance coaching and the women in the high performance environment. So there's a strong drive from government to see that increase, and there's a strong drive from our CEO, happens to be female. She comes from netball, and she's reacting to some of the questions that are being asked around Westminster around why don't we see more women in high performance coaching and high performance sport. So we're trying to help address that. And last year, 94% of the audience rated us as excellent or good. So we're hitting the mark. They would soon tell us if they didn't value it. Our elite program was launched just under 2 years ago, so 18 months ago. So it's mid-term. It's a 3-year program, and it's pretty significant from an investment in time and an investment monetarily from our perspective. What we're trying to do is the stated aim there is take our coaches that are already world class to be world leading, to make them the best in their field. Now they may already be there. Some of our gold medal winning coaches could put their hand up and say, well, fundamental facts are my athletes win gold medals every time we go to a world championship or an Olympic games. But are they the best that they can be? And my stated aim is to keep those great coaches coaching. So often you see people achieve at the coaching level, get drawn into some of the managerial activity. And sometimes the draw there is changing lifestyle or a salary increase. Happened to me when I was in Formula 1. I can run a car. I won races and championships throughout my career, but I got drawn into team management and away from actually engineering the car and making the car fundamentally quick. And what we want to do is to keep great coaches coaching and for them to be the best they can be. It's across 3 years, and we focus on self. So the coach getting to know themselves better and also their cohort as best they possibly can. Year 2 is a focus around the sport. So there's a performance-led project which has to evidence an increase in their sport, either from a legacy perspective or from an immediate perspective. So there's been a shift in engineering thinking within one of our sports, which is now rolled itself out to a strategy that's going to last 4, 6, 8 years through this project. So one of their coaches has had an itch to scratch all of his life, and it's developed and developed. He's never had the opportunity to bring that to life. We're bringing that opportunity to life. We're putting resource behind it, some finance behind it, and getting the ideas out of their head actually into a performance eventuality. And then the third year is around system. So all that knowledge that they've got, how do they get that out? Not just keep it in their heads or within their environment on a day-to-day basis, get it out, spread it wider within the sport, so then the foundation comes up, and then the athletes and the coaches coming towards our world-class program are at a better level, and a better level, and a better level. And that can be an apprentice type environment where they allow somebody to shadow them for a world championship or a European championship, or they take time out of their own daily working environment and they go to the clubs on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night and give the benefit of their advice to those coaches and those athletes that are operating further down the pathway. The journey tracker was what David brought to life earlier today, and that's the reflective tool that we ask the coaches to utilise and bring what they're thinking, how they're going through things to us. And then what we call, so these are your mentors. So you call coach support specialists. We've interviewed and filtered to a group of 50, so there's quite a diverse group within there. Some are sport specific, commercial, business, military, medicine. And what we do is a meeting of so we propose 3 of these coach support specialists for each of the coaches, and they get access to that. In one individual, we do a chemistry meet, and they can support them through that 3-year journey. And you heard Rob McCracken talking very highly of Deborah Tom, who's his coach support specialist. Big investment, and to get people's time who are operating right at the forefront of their sport, it has to be highly valued. And we get plenty of feedback from the coaches that are on the programme. 2 you saw earlier today, well actually 3 you saw earlier today because Peter Moores is on that programme. So cricket, because we have fun cricket, are paying to be on that programme. So they've got Peter Moores on the first cohort, and they've got Andy Flower on the second cohort. And Anna Mays from netball, again, netball paid for her to be on that programme, and she's in the first cohort. ECAP is the apprenticeship scheme that you saw halfway up the pathway. This is a 2-year programme, 8 residentials across those 2 years. We ask the sport to nominate a master coach for this emerging coach to work with from a technical perspective, so an anchor point within the national governing body, and then we put in place mentor support beside that. So there's 2 people supporting that coach as they're emerging within their individual doctrine. 12 per year, that's the number that we've honed in on. Anything more than that, and interactions, workshops become to drive those workshops when you've got 4 groups of 3 or 6 groups of 2, can be really, really interactive, and there's some great learns from that. So far we've had 57 coaches graduate or are currently on the programme, so it's our most developed programme, and 28 of our sports have benefited from involvement in that. Initially it looked like just the big sports were getting involved with it, but now we've diversified more and more and more and more, so we know that our influence is wider now. At the outset of this programme, we expected the mentors that were put forward, or that we found to be of a decent level. When we reviewed the programme after year 1 and year 2, we found that the key relationship wasn't the master coach and the coach, it was the mentor and the coach. And the relationships where the mentor and the coach had formed really strong bonds, and there was a lot of activity, those coaches were benefiting the most. And the coaches that either hadn't found a mentor that they wanted to work with, developed the least. So that was a catalyst for us to implement a mentoring program of our own, so we could kite mark a group that we could dip into and align with the coaches that get nominated onto this program. I'm going to attempt to show you a video of our latest program.
Great.
athlete to coach.
So can I just ask on this last one, the leader development days that you just say something about that?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
Oops.
It feels like I've been studying to be a coach for the last 20 years as an athlete.
Paralympians, everyone's got a separate benchmark because truly everyone is an individual. Retiring from an athlete and becoming a coach, I have absolutely no regrets at all. It is the best thing I could have done.
I do like the development aspect, the idea of the coach getting the best out of individuals. You know, that's probably what the majority of coaches are in it for.
All the emotions the gymnast goes through, I go through with them.
So I apologise for the quality of that. It was slightly better, a bit jumpy. I don't know why. So athlete to coach. This is a program that's come around where there's a huge amount of retiring athletes trying to get into coaching. I think the stat is around 80% of coaches are currently retired athletes. UK sport fundamentally invests in those athletes during their athletic career. And we thought, wouldn't it be great to keep them in their NGB once they're past their competition activity, where they've learned the sacrifices necessary, the technical and the tactical elements, the training side of things within their sport. Give them some pedagogical skills so they could do that knowledge transfer to other individuals and keep them in coaching. So we sort of second invest again in the same people, where they've been brilliant athletes up until this point. No reason why they can't be brilliant coaches. So a year foundation course gives them some of those pedagogical skills. The difference between competing and coaching, and then the introduction into a cohort again, where they've got other individuals that have trodden similar paths, that are going similar career changes, that they can work with. So they don't feel on their own and isolated within their sports. The great thing here, especially from my CEO's perspective, is the gender split that we've been able to attain. So young females are being attracted into coaching post their competition phase of their career so far. So we're really excited about this. We expect to see some churn because coaching won't be for everybody, or maybe not at the elite end. So we expect to see a little bit of that. And then once they've done this program, a couple of years, 3 years within their world-class program, they get a higher and higher level of athlete to work with, and maybe they'll get nominated onto the ECAP program, 2 years on that, another couple of years maybe a quadrennial. They start to repeatedly win medals at World Championship and Olympic Games levels, and then they can go into the elite program. That's the pathway that we've put out. So mentoring. If I refer you back to the pathway where we have mentoring all the way up, if that lower corner right at the bottom here at the foundation, that could just be a cup of tea, it could be a cup of coffee with somebody that's been there, seen it and done it, and just giving you the benefit of their experience. Right at the top, at the elite end, head coaches, senior technical leads aren't going to be happy with a cup of coffee. They're going to want value from the person that they're interacting with. And that could almost be at a supervisory psychiatric type level. So those are highly developed individuals that have had a lifelong of professional activity from an executive coach mentor perspective. And that's why we changed the name slightly to coach support specialist. So they're specialising in that coach support right at that top level. So we've got a year-long program that takes not necessarily a coach, it could be a practitioner. So we've got lifestyle practitioners from the EIS that come on our program. Can be coach developers from another source, or it could be an individual from a national governing body, a performance director, for instance. They'll get nominated onto this course, onto this program. So there's a mixture of sports institutes and partners, and even some of my team have been on it as well. So they can go out and they can practice their mentoring with not necessarily the coaches on the ECAP program, but other coaches within the system. And then slowly but surely we'll populate the sports with people with those abilities to mentor accurately and supportively, rather than maybe somebody that does a bit of tell, or somebody that just imparts their knowledge. Do it this way, this is the way that I did it, and that was successful. And there's a line between, or a graduation between coaching and mentoring, and the real eloquent mentors can transgress that grey area with ease. What we were seeing before was sometimes a political motivation behind somebody mentoring a coach. I should be mentoring them because I've been in the sport 25 years, but actually you're crap at mentoring, so that wouldn't be useful for the coach. So we took it upon ourselves to kite mark these people, and there's an assessment at the end of it, and so it is an effective pass or fail. The performance director development is what we've been asked to do, and I need to speed up. These are the people that are leading our performance programs within our national governing bodies. There's an element of flex within the performance director audience as well. So what we've come up with is the budding of the experienced PDs, those that have been there, seen it, done it, maybe before lottery funding came. So they've seen their sport grow all the way through, with new people that have just taken on that role. We've developed an impact tool so they can literally draw out the activities within the performance director capability, or should be within their knowledge pool. We'll look at the individual as well and put on some continual professional development around that as an individual, but also as a collective. So if we're sending this forum off to Rio or Pyeongchang to represent Team GB, we want them to be the best that they can be. It would be remiss of us not to develop them, to at least look at how we can assist them to be the best that they can be, but at the same time don't duplicate some of the activities that the BOA or the BPA are doing. So we're working in association with those guys to make that team leader development, that person that's actually leading out in the field in Rio or Pyeongchang, to make sure that the competition goes as well as it can and the athletes are prepared as best they possibly can be. This is direct support around Paralympic coaches, so that could be quite different to a normal coach. None of the other programs stop Paralympic coaches being nominated for them. This is in addition. So, as I said at the top, we've got a target of 121 medals that we want to bring back from Rio, from our para sports activities. So we've put something in place, 2-year programs that bring together sports. So we've got team sports, interacting with other team sports. We've got the more physiologically based sports, interacting in a hub coming out of Manchester, and we put on some support for the first-time head coach. So that can be quite daunting. Those of you that have led a team, daunting going into your first major games, especially if that's in the Olympic Games, and there's significant pressure to bring home some decent medal haul. And the take-up has been astonishing. Straight away, they were absolutely lapping it up. And if you think about the cerebral palsy type activity with athletes, and you're trying to increase the strength and the ability of a cerebral palsy athlete, it's got to be pretty carefully done. So what we're going to do is do some themed workshops across that to bring out the best science support, medic support, injury prevention support that we can for some of these coaches. Connect is a support of one individual in all of our home countries, looking at high performance coach development within their region. So it gives us the opportunity to get our learns from all of our elite programs out to the home countries as quickly as we can, but also find out what's going on the ground in those individual territories and bring that together harmoniously. That's the investment in Sports Coach UK. We do it on a quadrennial basis. Alongside SE is Sport England. They invest as well. They invest for the pathway. We invest for more towards the United Kingdom coaching certificate level 3 and level 4. If we didn't invest in this, then national governing bodies would go their own way and develop their own coaching awards, but this gives them support and a framework to do their individual awards over and above the development programs that we're putting on. And then that's the latest piece of work that we've just started on, and we'll be doing that over the summer. We're looking to roll out something maybe towards the end of this quadrennial, but more likely for the Rio to Tokyo 4-year cycle. So that's a bit of an infographic around the large amount of activity that we're doing. So we're involved with 91% of our funded sports. So that tells us that they value the activity that we're putting on. And astonishingly, when I asked my team to add up all the workshops that they're putting on, that's a workshop a week. There's something happening all the time. Sometimes the whole team is out because we've got 4 workshops across those different programs in 1 week. 370 people at the conference, as I've already said, and then it's maybe a little bit dubious across this one, but of those 19 coaches on the elite program so far, if you added up their target for medals for Rio, that's 41 medals. But we're hoping that those coaches will develop athletes to the ability of bringing home that amount of medals. So impact, final slide. How do we know what we're doing is the right thing? So our most evolved program is the Elite Coaching Apprenticeship Program. So we've looked at that for the most robust data that we could. So of the 12 coaches that came on that very first year of that program, now 75% of that cohort is either in a head coach or a leading technical position within their national governing body. And they're working with 75% of that cohort is working with world-class athletes. So it's difficult to assess the impact of a people development program. Really difficult. It's way longitudinal than it is subjective. You get anecdotal or subjective data, and sometimes what we're looking for is objective data. So that's as good as we can get at the moment, and we'll continue. Our board invests in us. They give us the funding that we need. Some may say, wow, that's a huge amount of investment just in elite coaching. It is in elite coaching from a medal winning perspective, but what we're trying to do is to make sure that information gets disseminated out, and we experiment right at the top, and those learns that we have, we get out to the fuller system. Okay, my time was up.